with "We Will Stop the Steal."
Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal!
You know, I say sometimes.
Welcome back to Highly Motivated. My name is Renee. Today is going to be a different kind of episode because I'm going to share my testimony with you guys today. Recently, a few things have popped up, and I know I've told you guys that I've been being a little bit attacked, and I think that is pointing me to actually, it's the time. Now is the time for me to tell you guys my story. I know you guys probably noticed that I'm not very political, and I wasn't always that way. So here we go. Let's get into it. I haven't even been really sure how to narrow down this story because there's a lot of different things that I could cover on it, and in the interest of time, I guess I'll just cover some main points, right? I grew up in a Pentecostal household, and let's just say the dynamic was less than functional, but less dysfunctional than some. I had my son at 21 years old, and his father was abusive, and after that, I married my ex-husband, who in the end was abusive as well in a different way. I say this to say that when I left that part of my life, after spending about 10 years under the thumb of somebody who wasn't exactly nice to me, I went on a venture of my own, and I had been so sick of people telling me what to do that I just did anything I wanted to, whether it was going to hurt me or not. And I didn't really have a foundation at the time because I fought against the religiosity or churchianity that I was brought up in. And while I had people who claimed to be Christians in my life, the way they lived wasn't in line. So I guess it felt like a lot of people today, they like to blame what the people around them who were supposedly lovers of Christ did to them on Christ. And, you know, that's why I understand when I see people do it. So fast forward, I ended up with a extreme drug addiction. I was using the one that started with M and the one that started with H. I'll put in, were news articles about me with one of those M labs. I was an embarrassment. I didn't realize it then, but now I know that I was a traumatized person and I was running from my problems rather than dealing with them. And I did so by basically harming myself. And there was a time where I OD'd about 7 times in 1 week, and I ended up in the hospital in a coma for 2 weeks. And I would really like to say that that was when I got clean and changed my life, but no, I went back out, and probably for about another year, and then finally I'd had enough, and I came home closer towards my parents and started. This had been about 5 years of me going hard after being divorced before I finally came to my senses. And I didn't even turn to God yet at that point. I thought I could do it on my own. And so I'm going to the meetings and I'm getting sober and I'm like, look, I did it, right? And now I know that I had God the whole time, right? He was watching over me. But my family was very heavy into Trump, my mom and dad, and I started living with them early on in my sobriety. And it was kind of something that we all agreed upon. And having a really strained relationship early on, it was kind of like, yay, we finally have common ground. You know what I mean? We all like can get along about this and talk about it. And I fast forward to the election of 2020. I was into the queue. I was in all of those rabbit holes, right? And so a friend of mine and we decided to get into his mom's vehicle. We actually invited her, but she didn't want to come. And we drove our little butts down to Rockville, Maryland. And we were there at the Capitol. I've got some pictures. I'll put them in here. You'll see them.
We came up with, we will stop the steal.
Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal!
You know, I say sometimes jokingly, but there's no joke.
I really believed that I was doing the right thing by going there, right? And I knew that day that what was being portrayed on the news was a little bit different than what I had experienced, but I didn't know the magnitude of it until after I had left, and it was the next day. Because my brother had called me that day while I was still in DC, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, why wouldn't I be okay? I didn't get it. Fast forward, I slowly started to do more research, because when you're looking for the truth, you don't just stop, right? You keep seeking. And if you're looking truly for the truth, you're going to end up at Jesus. And I first started realizing that, the whole idea of a two-party system is just complete propaganda, and it's two wings of the same bird, and they have people against each other for nothing. It is the whole entire point is so they can maintain control and keep us upset at each other like we had any control over it in the first place. And it really hit home when I started seeing all the Antifa people getting bailed out of jail and all those things. And then I have the FBI knocking on my door. So the guy that I went with started talking to another female. Like, him and I were friends. I thought he was my friend, okay? And he started dating a girl and started bragging about the fact that we went to January 6th. They break up, not on good terms. She tells someone else. They call the FBI and say, "Oh, give them our names," basically, and said that we were there. So they spoke to him. They knocked on my door, and I'm an idiot. I let them in because I thought I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I told them about the Ray Epps guy, everything. Like, somebody came from in the building. There was an Asian woman who opened up the door from inside the building, held it open, and started waving people in. And I watched this for about maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and eventually I was like, you know what, let's go in there for a minute. I didn't think it was illegal to go in there, but I'm an idiot. Ignorance doesn't mean that what you're doing isn't illegal. So we walked in, and according to the court documents, we walked in and were in there for exactly 3 minutes, turned around and walked out, and then stood there for another couple hours and left. What I just told you about somebody coming in or opening the doors, they didn't want to hear anything that I had to say. And I ended up paying a $760 fine. I am doing 50 hours of community service, and I am on 2 years of federal probation. Now, unfortunately, before the FBI even knocked on my door, I had been out of the spell of politics. I had realized that I was literally lied to and used as a pawn, and I was propagandized. I thought that I couldn't be propagandized, and I was. So I say all this to say, if I would have had Jesus as my head and I would have had a firm foundation, none of these things would have moved me, because now that I have Jesus as my head, I'm a new creature. All of the things that used to interest me disgust me. All of the things I used to focus on, I can't focus on. And some of these rabbit holes are only put there to keep you going down a rabbit hole rather than actually coming to the knowledge of the truth. And that is, the sacrifice that God made for us so that we could live with him eternally. Like, that's insanity. And it sucks that I had to get so lost in the world to come to this realization. And I'm hoping that maybe, somebody who watches me can learn from me. And, this all came back up because the gentleman that I went with, apparently he used, this is the defense that he went with. I'm going to link the article. He said that I told him I would be his girlfriend if he drove me to January 6th. So this came up. So now I'm in the news on Syracuse.com, in the town where I live. And, people on Twitter, they're bringing up my past drug arrests. Like, listen, when the devil can no longer attack your message, he attacks you. And I have not been that person in a very long time, but now all these things are coming back up. And so I have the armor of God, though. But I guess this would be like the Cliff's Notes version of my testimony. I really just wanted to touch on it a little bit because I know that I've said that I would, and I really want you guys to get to know who I am, and I want you to see the difference of who I am now versus the person I was when I was deep in and the devil was controlling my life. I'm a living, walking testimony. I shouldn't even be here today. And so God let me live for a reason. I'm here today to bring more people to him. If there's anything that you want me to talk about further, or if you have any questions, I'm totally open to answering them. I love you guys, and I thank you for coming back and watching my videos and hanging out with me. You are amazing. And until next time, stay prayed up and stay highly motivated.